welcome back to the channel. So for today's video, I want to talk about all of my favorite books in 2019, and in all of last year I've really been trying to focus on nourishing my mind as well as my body and my soul, and I just wanted to really focus on being a better complete person rather than just focusing on one aspect of my life. And if that is of interest to you, then do keep on watching. But if you haven't subscribed to the family yet, I just want to remind you to do so by hitting that subscribe button down below and hit the bell sign so that you get notified every time I have new videos like this. Okay, so the first book that really changed my life in 2019, which I think I read at the end of 2018, was called Search Inside Yourself by Chade Meng Tan. And he is a Google engineer, and he talks about how he found enlightenment through mindfulness, and he discusses all of the ways in which you could be a better person, a better employee, and how you can just perform at your best self. And he explains everything through modern science. He uses humor, he uses a lot of different case studies and directs it to people that are very relatable and through different parts of their journey. And it just made me realize that a lot of times, especially in this day and age, we're so focused on just doing, that we don't actually stop to think, okay, like, what is the purpose of this? Am I actually doing this for the right reasons? Or is what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking inside aligned to how my actions are being perceived and portrayed? So it was really enlightening, and I just really go back to this book. I think I've gone back to it maybe twice already, and every time I tell my friends about how emotional intelligence is a big part of your general intelligence, and a lot of people have such a huge focus on educational intelligence or factual intelligence that a lot of people disregard emotional intelligence. And he discusses how that goes hand in hand with mindfulness and helps you kind of achieve your greater purpose. And yeah, if you guys are interested in reading about that, then I highly recommend this book. Just every time I read it, I always pick up something new from it, and so I think it could be beneficial for you guys as well, so I wanted to share it. Once again, it's called Search Inside Yourself by Chade Meng Tan. The second book that really changed my life was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And this is a very popular book, and I'm sure a lot of you guys already know about it, but it's done in a question and answer format, and he just discusses how the power of now and being in the moment and being mindful can really help you with your grief, with anxiety, with just your general sense of joy. And being in the now helps you focus on not worrying about what has happened in the past or what is about to happen in the future. And I just felt like it really did change my life in the sense that when I get anxious and when I worry about things, I realize that, okay, I do not have the power to change what's happened in the past because it's already done, and whatever will happen in the future, then I'll deal with it when it happens. So this is just a short snippet of the actual book, but you guys should read it because it really is so life-changing, and he's extremely popular because of how amazing his book is and all of the spiritual teachings he does. So yeah, it's Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. The third book that I found really enlightening was Option B, Facing Adversity, Building Resistance, and Finding Joy by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant. And if you guys don't know who Sheryl Sandberg is, she is one of the top positions in Facebook, and it was just such a raw, revealing book on how she faced adversity, in the sense that she had a devastating loss in her life, which was the loss of her husband suddenly on a trip. And she discusses so personally how she got through that adversity and that loss. And there was a line in the book which was what led to the title, which is they were planning an event for their children. I can't remember so clearly, but they were planning something, and she broke down and she cried and she said, "But I want Dave to be there," and Dave was her husband. And her friend responded, "Well, option A isn't available, so let's just kick the shit out of option B." And I just will never forget that, because it's so relatable. We've all dealt with some sort of loss, you know, like you don't get the job you want, or you lost a loved one, or, you know, we all deal with loss in some way, shape, or form. And it just goes through her journey of loss and devastation and how she just really tried to pull everything together. And I just felt like it was so relatable, and it was beautiful to hear about that from someone at such a top level of power. And sometimes when we see people like that, it's so easy for us to disassociate because they're so successful, they're at the top of their game, but we forget at the end of the day that we're all human and we're all dealing with very similar things. And I just felt like the book was just very inspiring. And so if that is something you guys need help with or that you find interesting, then it is, I'm just gonna shorten it, it's called Option B by Sheryl Sandberg. I'll put the link down below. Fourth book on my list is another bestseller, and I totally get why, and it's called Becoming by Michelle Obama. Now, this woman needs no introduction or explanation. You guys all know who she is. And if you haven't read the book yet, it was just so nice to be able to hear her story and how she came from what was then called like the slums of Chicago, and how she persevered through getting a good education and then eventually becoming a lawyer and then meeting Barack Obama, falling in love, and then their story of how they went through law school up until ending up in the White House. And there's just a lot of really fun anecdotes that takes you behind the curtain, if you will. And it was just really nice too, because part of her charm in general, without even needing this book, is that she really is so relatable. And she did it once again in this book, and there's just a lot of really great stories. And it's very inspirational in the sense that you can come from some place like the slums of Chicago and make it to the White House and still remain true to the person that you are. And she was just really truthful in the sense that she wanted to give back, even if she had, I think it was Princeton or Harvard, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but she had a degree to be a lawyer, but then she knew that her calling was public service and to help the youth and education, and that really is what she ran with when she became first wife. And so if you guys want a sneak peek behind the White House curtain and the people who run one of the most powerful nations in the world, then you guys can check it out, and it's called Becoming by Michelle Obama. Up next is one of the books I talked about in a previous favorites video, and rightfully so. It is called Good to Great by Jim Collins, and it talks about how companies sustained their success throughout adversity and throughout market changes. And him and his research company goes through thousands of press articles and interviews, and they categorize companies into 3 categories, and I wrote it down here. It's the good to great companies, direct comparison companies, and unsustained comparison companies. And he makes a comparison about what makes companies good versus being great. And I just found it really interesting because I do have a business background in college, and so obviously I have interest in how companies grow and sustain that growth and also sustain that success. And yeah, I just found it very interesting, and he talks about different aspects of whether it was a change in the leader of the corporation, change in the ethos of the company, or whatever else factors that these companies took on to separate themselves from other companies within their industry. And if that is something you guys are interested in, then it is called Good to Great by Jim Collins. Moving on to my #1 fictional favorite in 2019, it definitely had to be The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And it discusses the life and love story of this old Hollywood star called Evelyn Hugo in the 1950s. And it just discusses a lot of the struggles she had to go through in marrying 7 different men, which on its own is already interesting. And how does one person go through 7 husbands? And in the end, she has an interview with a young up-and-coming journalist, and she just decides that in her late 70s she's gonna finally tell her truth and tell her story, and it tackles a lot of issues, especially sexuality and dealing with that in the 1950s and having to keep a deep dark secret. I don't want to give too much away, but it just really has you hooked from the moment you start reading it, and it's just like a page turner on its own. And this is probably one of the few books that has really gotten me like sobbing up till the end. Like I was literally reading it and like crying my eyes out, and it's amazing when a book can really capture that emotion in you and really get it out of you. And if you guys haven't read it yet, you need to, so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. But once again, it's The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Alright, so there you guys have it. Those are my top 6 books that really made an impact on me in 2019. If you guys have read any of these books and you like them as well, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know also if you have any books that really resonated with you or changed your life, and if I should read them, please do suggest it in the comment section down below. I'm always looking for good new reads. And let me know also if you guys like me sharing my book recommendations with you guys by hitting the thumbs up button. And yeah, just leave some love and like suggestions in the comment section, because I really do read through all of them, and I find that it really does help. That way it's more of a communication in this community and not just me talking at you guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. As usual, don't forget to subscribe so that I'll see you guys in my next video.